The rain falls not with a sense of urgency, but with a rhythmic patience, hitting the ancient stone basin outside the temple, with a sound that reminds us of time's slow, inevitable march. Imagine a traveler, weary and breathless, standing before a small pond. The water is a dark, swirling mass of silt and clay, stirred up by the very storm that drenching his robes. He is desperate. He seeks the reflection of the moon to find his way. But the more he tries to clear the surface with his wooden staff, the murkier it becomes. He stabs at the mud, hoping to push the chaos aside, yet he only invites more darkness from the bottom. Nearby, sheltered by a simple thatched roof, sits an old man. He does nothing. He watches the traveler's frantic struggle with eyes that have seen 1,000 such storms. Eventually, the traveler collapses in exhaustion, dropping his staff. He sits in the silence of his own defeat, and in that moment of stopping, the miracle begins. The silt begins to drift downward, pulled by a gravity that requires no effort. The water clears, and there, in the center of the now transparent pool, the moon appears, silver and steady. The old sage whispers into the damp air that the water becomes clear not by doing, but by allowing. Stillness is not an action we perform. It is the cessation of the interference we have mistaken for life. It is a privilege to share this quiet space with you. If these words feel like a cool breeze on a fevered brow, I invite you to subscribe and join our growing circle of weary souls seeking a different path. Please, leave a like to help this message reach others who are drowning in the noise. And I would be deeply moved to know where in this vast, beautiful world you are listening from today. Tell me in the comments, for it gladdens my heart to see how far the ripples of peace can travel. This channel relies on the kindness of those it touches. If you feel a resonance with our message, consider using the Thanks button, that small heart with the currency symbol beneath the video. Any contribution, however humble, helps me keep this fire burning every day. And for those among you who feel that the chaos of life is often a matter of poor timing, I have gathered some deeper reflections in a small guide titled Master the Right Moment. It is a quiet companion, condensed into rich pages, designed to help you recognize when to strike and when to wait. You will find it waiting for you in the link within the pinned comment below. We must admit to ourselves that we have become a stirred-up pond. We live in an era of aggressive becoming, where the blue light of our screens has replaced the soft glow of the moon. We wake up already behind, chasing a ghost of productivity that promises rest only after the next task is finished. But the finished state never arrives. Our minds are like a frenetic maelstrom, even when our bodies are seated in a plush chair. We are exhausted not by the weight of our work, but by the weight of our wanting. Society tells us that stillness is a void, a waste, a failure of ambition. But it is in that very waste that the soul finally finds room to breathe. We have forgotten how to simply be, and in doing so, we have lost the ability to see the world as it truly is. There is a profound illusion that governs our modern days, the belief that constant motion is synonymous with progress. We have mistaken the frantic chattering of the monkey mind for the productive energy of the spirit. Imagine the monkey, swinging from vine to vine, never pausing to taste the fruit, driven only by the fear of the ground or the desire for the next branch. This is the state of our modern psyche. We respond to emails while walking to lunch. We plan tomorrow's battle while supposedly resting in the arms of our loved ones. We are physically here, but our essence is always there, in the next moment, the next achievement, the next crisis. Contrast this with the rooted tree. The tree does not move an inch, yet it grows, it breathes, it provides shade, and it bears fruit. Its doing is hidden in its being. In our workplaces, we often fall victim to performative busyness. We believe that to be seen as valuable, we must be seen as strained. We sigh heavily. We move quickly. We keep 40 tabs open on our screens as if they were trophies of our dedication. But this is a hollow dance. As the old masters remind us, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. When we rush, we create friction. When we create friction, we wear ourselves thin. We must learn to distinguish between the heat of friction and the light of true fruitfulness. The next moment syndrome is a sickness of the soul that robs us of the only reality we possess. We treat the present as a mere corridor, a hallway we must sprint through to reach a door that always recedes. This is why we feel so invisible, so ignored by our own lives. We are never actually home to receive the experiences we are working so hard to acquire. Think of the empty boat, described by the ancient sage Zhuangzi. If a man is crossing a river and an empty boat collides with his, even if he is a hot-tempered man, he will not become angry. But if there is a person in that boat, he will scream and curse. Why? Because the empty boat has no self to offend him. It is simply moving with the current. When we are full of our own frantic agendas, we are like the boat with the screaming passenger, colliding with everything and everyone. We must learn to practice micro-transitions. When you finish a phone call, do not immediately reach for the next task. Take 3 breaths. Feel the air enter your lungs. Feel the weight of your body on the earth. In those few seconds, you are clearing the mud. You are becoming the empty boat. This brings us to the sacred Japanese concept of ma, the space between. In a piece of music, it is not the notes themselves that create the soul-stirring melody, but the silence between them. Without that void, the music is just a wall of noise, a senseless shriek. Our lives have become a song with no pauses. We schedule our days to the minute, fearing the ma, as if it were a sign of laziness. Yet, it is in the ma that our ideas mature, where our emotions settle, and where our resonance with others is formed. If you do not leave white space in your digital calendar, you are denying your mind the fertile silence it needs to heal. A wheel is made of 30 spokes, but it is the hole in the center, the emptiness, that makes it useful. If the hub is not still, the wheel cannot turn. You must find your internal anchor, that central point of your wheel that remains unmoved even as the rim of your life rolls over the rocky terrain of bills, deadlines, and social expectations. As we move deeper into this understanding, we encounter the most misunderstood and yet most transformative principle of the Tao, Wu Wei. Often translated as non-doing, it is more accurately described as effortless action, or the art of not forcing. To understand Wu Wei, one must look at the river. The river does not struggle to reach the sea. It does not argue with the boulders in its path. When it meets a mountain, it does not attempt to push it over. It simply flows around it, finding the path of least resistance. Water is the softest thing in the universe, yet it overcomes the hardest stone through the simple grace of persistence and yielding. In our modern lives, we are taught to be the stone. We are told to crush it, to break through, to force our will upon reality. But the stone eventually cracks and turns to dust, while the water remains. When you face a difficult person, perhaps a supervisor who is blinded by their own ego, or a family member trapped in a cycle of bitterness, your instinct is to clash, to meet their hardness with your own. This is the path of exhaustion. Wu Wei teaches us to yield. Yielding is not weakness. It is the ultimate strategy. By listening, by observing, and by refusing to provide a surface for their anger to strike against, you find the gaps in their armor. You adapt, and in adapting, you maintain your integrity while they deplete their energy. We must also look at the concept of Pu, the uncarved block. We are all born as uncarved blocks, full of infinite potential and natural simplicity. But as we grow, society begins to carve us. Our parents carve their expectations, our teachers carve our ambitions, our social media feeds carve our desires and our insecurities. By the time we reach adulthood, we are so intricately carved that we no longer recognize our original grain. We feel fake or strained because we are living a shape that isn't ours. Stillness allows us to return to the block. It is about identifying those parts of our lives where we are performing for an audience that doesn't truly care. Ask yourself, what do you do purely for the joy of the doing? If every hobby is an attempt to monetize or to improve your brand, you are carving yourself into a tool for someone else's use. We need to cultivate activities that have no output. Gardening where the goal is just the dirt under the fingernails, or cooking where the goal is just the aroma in the air. This leads us to a state of skillful spontaneity. There is an ancient story of a man who could walk through a burning forest without being singed and leap from great heights without being bruised. When asked for his secret, he didn't speak of magic. He spoke of focus. He was so at one with the moment, so devoid of the interference of fear or overthinking, that the fire did not find a person to burn. When we overthink, we create a self that gets in the way of our own skill. Think of the last time you were in a flow state, perhaps while playing a sport, painting, or even solving a complex problem at work. In those moments, you disappeared. There was only the action. This is the butcher-cook Ding, whose knife never needed sharpening in 19 years. While other butchers hacked at the bone, Ding saw the space between the joints. He followed the natural lines of the ox. Our lives are full of friction because we are hacking at the bones of our problems. We are trying to force solutions where we should be looking for the gaps. Stillness is the quiet observation that allows us to see where the gaps are, so we can move through life with the sharp, effortless grace of a master's blade. This journey into the self leads us inevitably to the heavy baggage we carry within our minds. We are, by nature, collectors. We collect memories, we collect grievances, we collect fears of things that have not yet happened, and we store them in the cramped attics of our consciousness until there is no room left to move, let alone to breathe. We have become hoarders of the invisible. Every notification that pings on our desk, every headline that screams of a distant crisis, every whispered doubt about our own worth, it all gets thrown onto the pile. We feel heavy, not because the world is physically weighing us down, but because we refuse to set anything down. As the old master Lao Tzu reminds us, to attain knowledge, one must add things every day. But to attain wisdom, one must remove things every day. Wisdom is the art of subtraction. It is the realization that your mind is not a storage unit, but a garden. If you do not weed it, the thorns will eventually choke the roses. Think of your current life as a room filled with broken furniture and dusty relics of who you used to be. Every time you pick up your phone to check the world, you are bringing in more clutter. You are inviting the chaotic energy of thousands of strangers into your private sanctuary. We must learn the discipline of stripping the excess. This is what we might call digital minimalism, but it goes far deeper than just deleting an app. It is a spiritual refusal to be a dumping ground for the world's noise. It is deciding that your peace is more valuable than being informed about things you cannot change. When you delete that one application that triggers your comparison trap, that one window that makes you feel less than, you are not losing a tool. You are gaining a horizon. You are clearing a space where the Ma, the sacred silence, can finally settle. In this clearing, we begin to see the beauty of the ordinary. The Japanese have a name for this, wabi-sabi. It is the wisdom of finding perfection in the imperfect, the simple, and the modest. We are so busy chasing the grand and the perfect that we walk right past the sacredness of a morning coffee ritual. We gulp down our sustenance as if it were a chore, our minds already at the office, already in the battle. But what if that cup of tea was the most important thing in the universe for 5 minutes? What if you noticed the steam rising like a mountain mist, the warmth of the ceramic against your palms, the bittersweet aroma that grounds you in the now? When we treat the mundane as sacred, the noise of the world loses its grip on us. We no longer need the next big purchase or the next promotion to feel alive. We are nourished by the simple act of being present with a single leaf, a single breath, or a single drop of rain. This requires us to let go of the script. We all have a script in our heads about how our lives should go. We have a timeline for success, a map for our relationships, and a rigid expectation for every day. When life deviates from this script, when a flight is canceled, when a project fails, when a partner disappoints us, we suffer. We suffer because we are clinging to a ghost. Confucius, in his later years, spoke of a state where he could follow his heart's desire without transgressing what was right. This is because he had stopped fighting the isness of the world. He practiced the pivot. When a plan fails, a wise soul does not scream at the sky. They look at the unexpected delay as a gift of time that was never on the calendar. They see the detour not as a lost path, but as the only path. This is the contentment of enough. We are constantly told that more is the answer, but the Tao Te Ching warns us that he who knows he has enough is truly rich. We must set a satisfaction threshold. We must decide before the race begins where the finish line is. Otherwise, we will run until our hearts stop, chasing a horizon that does not exist. We must now turn our gaze to the architecture of the soul itself, to the concept of the vessel. We often identify ourselves with our contents, our thoughts, our titles, our possessions. But a vessel is only useful because of the space it holds. If a bowl is filled to the brim with lead, it cannot hold the life-giving water you need to survive. Many of us are so full of ourselves, our opinions, our certainties, our rigid identities, that we have no room for anything new to enter. We are like a cup that is already overflowing, and yet we keep asking the universe to pour more in. To be still is to empty the vessel. It is to recognize that your true value lies not in what you are, but in the emptiness you provide for life to flow through. This has a profound application in how we love and how we listen. Have you ever noticed that when someone speaks to you, you are often not listening, but waiting to speak? Your mind is already crafting a response, a correction, or a story of your own. You are full. To truly hear another soul, you must become an empty room. You must set aside your own baggage and provide a space where their words can land and resonate. This is emotional availability. It is the highest form of generosity. By being empty, you allow the other person to feel seen, to feel that their reflection is clear in the pond of your presence. This is the utility of the hole in the center of the wheel. It is the stillness that allows the whole family, the whole community, to turn together in harmony. To maintain this emptiness, we must cultivate Shoshin, the beginner's mind. As we grow older, We become experts at our own lives. We think we know how the day will go, how our spouse will react, and how our work should be done. This knowledge is a cage. It blinds us to the infinite possibilities that exist in every moment. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. Imagine approaching a long-held grudge with the eyes of a child who has never seen it before. Imagine looking at a boring task at your desk, as if it were a complex puzzle you are seeing for the first time. This freshness is not a lack of intelligence, it is the presence of awareness. It is a return to the state of the uncarved block, where we are not yet limited by the shapes the world has forced upon us. This leads us to the ultimate conversation: silence. There is an old story of the Buddha holding up a single flower before a vast assembly. No one understood, except for one monk who simply smiled. That smile was the silent flower sermon. It was a transmission of truth that required no words. We are terrified of shared silence. When we are with a friend or a partner and the conversation dies, we feel an itch to fill the air with chatter, with gossip, with noise. But the deepest bonds are forged in the spaces where words are not needed. Sitting in comfortable silence with someone is a sign that your vessels are aligned. You are no longer two egos performing for each other. You are two spirits resting in the same stillness. We often look at the world around us as something separate, a backdrop to our busy lives. Yet the ancient masters knew that nature is not a setting. It is a mirror. We suffer because we have forgotten the language of the earth. We have tried to build a world of permanent summer, where we are expected to bloom, produce, and expand every single day of the year. But look at the forest. No tree is foolish enough to try to grow in the dead of winter. Nature understands the necessity of the winter of the heart. There are seasons in our lives where our energy retreats into the roots, where nothing seems to be happening on the surface. And the world calls this stagnation. We call it failure. But in the eyes of the Tao, this is a time of vital maturation. It is a silent, fertile period where the soul gathers the strength necessary for the next spring. If you do not allow yourself to have a winter, your spring will be weak, and your summer will be brittle. We must learn to honor our low tides just as much as our high ones. Consider the bamboo, standing tall in the middle of a typhoon. It is not its strength that saves it, but its flexibility. The great oak, rigid and proud, resists the wind with all its might until, finally, it snaps at the base. But the bamboo? It bows. It yields. It dances with the storm. In our modern existence, we are taught that yielding is a sign of a weak character. We are told to stand our ground, to be unbreakable, to harden ourselves against the world. But rigidity is the hallmark of death, while flexibility is the hallmark of life. When we receive a harsh word from a colleague or a biting criticism from a stranger online, our instinct is to harden, to become the oak. But if we adopt the resilience of the bamboo, we let the energy of the attack pass over us. We bend. We learn from the friction. And when the wind dies down, we stand tall once more, unharmed. This is cognitive flexibility, the ability to move with reality rather than breaking against it. Then there is the mountain. To the mountain, the weather is merely a temporary garment. 1 hour it is draped in golden sunlight, the next it is swallowed by dark, heavy clouds and lightning. Does the mountain become the storm? Does it panic when the sun disappears? No. It remains unshakable because it knows its own depth. Our thoughts and anxieties are like those clouds. They are impermanence in motion. They drift in, they darken our sky, and eventually they dissipate. The tragedy of the modern mind is that we have begun to identify with the clouds. We say, "I am the storm," instead of, "I am the mountain watching the storm pass." By anchoring ourselves in this perspective, we create a space of resonance where we can observe our fear, our anger, and our frenetic impulses without being carried away by them. We become the witness, the silent observer who remains still while the atmosphere of life shifts and turns. To truly anchor this wisdom, we must reconnect with the qi, the vital breath that flows through all things. We spend our days in boxes, boxed rooms, boxed cars, boxed offices, and we wonder why our spirits feel constricted. There is a profound healing in the simple act of grounding. To walk barefoot on the grass, to feel the raw texture of a stone, or to simply stand still and feel the wind on your skin for 60 seconds is to perform a silent osmosis with the universe. You are reminding your body that it belongs to the earth, not to the grid. In those moments, the ruido, the noise of the digital world, begins to fade, replaced by the deep rhythmic pulse of the living world. This is not a hack to be more productive. It is a return to your original nature. This brings us to the most difficult task of all, bringing this stillness into the voragem, the whirlpool of our daily existence. It is easy to be a sage on a mountain top. The true challenge is to be a sage in the middle of a traffic jam. We must learn to maintain an inner monastery while navigating the city. Imagine your morning commute not as a period of lost time or a battle to be won, but as a sanctuary. As the cars honk and the city screams, you find the calm in the center. You turn your focus to the breath, making the steering wheel or the subway handle your prayer beads. You are in the world, but the world is not in you. This is the secret of the man who lost his shadow. He moved so lightly, so centered in his own being, that the world could no longer find a grip on him to pull him into its chaos. Stillness is not just something we do when we sit still. It is a way of moving. The practice of stillness in motion transforms the most mundane tasks into acts of grace. When you walk from your desk to get a glass of water, do you rush as if the seconds are being stolen from you? Or do you feel every step? Do you feel the shift of weight, the contact of your foot with the floor? This is mindful walking, a way of reclaiming your time from the frantic pace of the abysmo that is modern efficiency. By moving slowly in a fast world, you are performing a revolutionary act. You are declaring that you are the master of your own rhythm. You are no longer a cog in a machine that is spinning out of control. You are a human being, walking with dignity. However, to protect this peace, you must become the guardian of your own sacred space. The world is predatory. It wants your attention, your outrage, and your data. It will leak into your soul if you do not set boundaries. You must establish a no-screen zone, a period at the beginning and the end of each day where the world is not allowed to speak to you. This is where your silencio fertil lives. If the first thing you do upon waking is to check the news or your messages, you have already surrendered your stillness to the collective anxiety. You have allowed the pond to be stirred before you have even opened your eyes. By knowing yourself, as the Master reminds us, you become enlightened. You learn to recognize the vampires of attention, and you gently but firmly close the door. The stars are now reflected in the pond, steady and bright. The traveler has found his way, not because he fought the darkness, but because he allowed the light to find him in the silence. Tomorrow, the world will call to you again. It will try to stir your water. It will tell you that you are falling behind, that you are not enough, that you must run faster just to stay in place. When that happens, remember the mountain. Remember the bamboo. Remember that you do not need to seek the Tao in some far-off temple. You are the temple. You are the stillness you have been searching for. The peace you crave is not a destination. It is the ground upon which you are already standing. Your life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. So go now. Step out into the world, but walk slowly. Carry this silence with you like a hidden treasure. The world, with all its noise and its fury, will wait for you. It has no choice, for in the end, everything returns to the stillness from which it came.